I'm David Bishop from the Public Health team at East Sussex County Council, talking about our research into our schools-based intervention delivered across East Sussex. Lots of the context has already been covered, which is really helpful. So this was part of the Phase 2 NIHR Reducing Demand for Illicit Substances programme delivered last year. Led by the County Council and the University of Brighton, but working alongside Brighton and Sussex Medical School, University of Kent, Solomon Theatre Company and Unity Insights, who delivered the cost-benefit analysis that was part of the research. I'll just provide some of the context to the intervention and what we're doing in East Sussex, and then Jörg will cover some of the research design and the interesting findings. So it's a theatre and education intervention delivered for 12 to 14-year-olds, primarily in Year 9 is what we're talking about, multi-component approach, and importantly it is a live version of the theatre in education performance that is provided and offered to all schools. So what is theatre education? In this context, how we're talking about it is delivered by a professional theatre company, often combined with classroom activities. We've delivered a theatre and education approach for around 4 or 5 years in East Sussex. There was real interest from our Children's Services Department and from schools to offer this kind of approach. It was welcomed by schools, and to try and tackle those kind of thorny issues around well-being and safeguarding relevant to young people's lives. So it's really part of our approach to whole school health improvement support for schools, part of our East Sussex Healthy Schools programme and the PSHE support that we provide to schools. So we work really closely with a few schools who provide peer-to-peer, school-to-school support to other schools, including the secondary PSHE hub, which is led by a local assistant head teacher who's been really instrumental in the intervention development as well. So our intervention consists of CPD webinars for school staff delivering the PSHE lessons that wrap around the theatre education performance. And obviously in this case around drugs, alcohol, vaping and tobacco. We developed those kind of in collaboration with our PSHE hub lead, and it was informed by young people's recommendations. The theatre performance was offered to all secondary schools and was adapted using pupil feedback. I'll talk a bit more about the specific performance in a moment. And obviously follow-up PSHE lessons based on the play using the resources that we've provided. And it was very much not just around kind of knowledge development, but also skills development, picking up on the themes and issues that are raised through the experience of watching the play that are then in theory discussed in more detail through those lessons in a supportive environment. So the play itself is a play by Solomon Theatre Company. We obviously deliver different types of theatre education on different themes. This is just the one particular performance that was researched during this project. And it was following a couple of students at a school, Tom and Lucy, who were juggling various pressures in life. One of the characters becoming more involved in risky behaviours around drugs in parties. And it was about the difficult choices and navigating the family situations as well of the different young people. And it highlighted various kind of red flags, coercion aspects and themes, help seeking, and enabling people to look after themselves and their friends, and coming to a conclusion around that. So that's the broad idea of the themes covered. So the research objectives were, how effective could this school-based theatre education intervention be? We really wanted to engage pupils, teachers and parents in understanding the intervention and how effective it was. What were those contextual factors? Again, like other projects we've heard about, a realist informed approach to that. Did it offer good value for money? and to what extent did it contribute to reducing health inequalities. So a really important aspect of the project was involving young people through the Young Persons Advisory Group that was established. So they really helped to look, before we even delivered the intervention, what could be changed, what could be made better about this, because we delivered it a number of times already in East Sussex, so we had some history to build on. And they said young people suggested script changes. They contributed to the development of the research tools and scales that were implemented, and the topic guides for qualitative discussions. So really important aspect there. I will move on quickly to show a short film about the research itself and the whole project, which should put this more into context as well. So hopefully you can all...
Recreational drug. So, the research team have been working with us, our parents and professionals to find out how to reduce or even prevent recreational drug use in young people.
The idea was that we would have an intervention based on a theatre play.
You're not listening.
Hey Mum, I was watching something!
Yeah? Well, I don't care.
So we wanted to build a more comprehensive wraparound programme with curriculum support before and after the theatre and education performance.
Our involvement in the project primarily was to convene a sort of a solid group of young people, or groups of young people from across East Sussex, and then really to help shape the content of how the theatre and education project would work.
So the Youth Advisory Group met several times from the beginning of the academic year, and they watched the show, they watched the old previous version.
Then we had a process of going through how we can change it, make it better from obviously a student's voice.
They said that the performance works best when storylines are authentic, the messaging is non-judgmental, and when they felt they could relate to the characters.
And now in the new one, they've replaced the cigarettes with vapes, and more alcohol has been used in it, and the music has been updated to what the kids these days listen to.
So our findings found that teachers and pupils really enjoyed the performance.
Lucy, what's this? These drugs, are you mad?
Staff really enjoyed the resources, so the lessons, and said that it really opened up conversations after the performance that wouldn't normally happen. Our analysis also found that it was good value for money, mainly through potential benefits in reducing unemployment and youth violence in the future. We've also developed resources available on the East Sussex County Council website that can help others design and deliver their own theatre in education project. So this is really important to get right. Everyone benefits from getting it right for young people. It's not just about prevention now, it's also about building a healthy, stronger society for the future.
Pass on to Jörg now.
So I'll take over. Can everybody hear me?
We can hear you, we can see your slides.
Okay, right.
Actually, sorry, I'm seeing David's slides. Are we continuing with David sharing?
Yeah. David will run the show. Thank you. Yes, so we adopted a mixed methods, realist informed evaluation of our theatre in education package. It should be emphasized it's realist informed, so we didn't go all the way through the very cumbersome or very demanding realist processes. And as before, when Betsy said, I think we looked at what works for whom and in what context. And there was this cost benefit study led by Unity Insights, which is a public interest company. We collected quite a lot of data, but in some way we would have liked to collect more. So we had a baseline and post-intervention survey. This is the pupil survey, but we also had a teacher survey looking at confidence, preparedness, and also the extent to which actually everything was delivered. the pupils were mostly year 8, 9, some year 10. It was sometimes quite difficult to really get schools to do exactly what we wanted. So we had to show some flexibility. We also had tried to get parents, but that turned out to be very, very challenging. But across, we also have to say that really we had a lot of schools from East Sussex participated, and a small number of schools, 5, we took a deep dive with much more intensive work taking place in those schools, which included audience observation, pupil focus groups, teacher interviews, and the parent interviews. Next slide, please. So this is just really a short list of findings. And we feel that in this, there was developmental issues were mentioned repeatedly. At the age of our school children, we found that, for example, when we did our survey, barely anybody took any drugs already, and the post-intervention, a few more children took drugs, at least all based on self-reported data, of course. But we also need to remember that a few years later, once they are 15, 16 years old, a substantive subset of children will have tried drugs. So many things are quite new to them, or to a large group of children whom we gave the questionnaire or interviewed. We obtained a very complex pattern of findings, and some of them which we didn't really want to see, such that, for example, there was a small but nevertheless significant reduction in self-reported knowledge, some reduction in refusal self-efficacy, but also a reduction in the reported likelihood to use drugs in the future. I want to emphasize figures, the differences are very, very small, but nevertheless, our sample was large enough to detect small differences as significant. We also looked at the schools which implemented the intervention more fully versus those who mostly only ran the play with limited surrounding activities. In these schools, which had the higher fidelity in delivery, we found increased knowledge, stronger refusal self-efficacy, but also a greater likelihood to try drugs. The latter only weakly significant, that what means just below 0.10. Our health economists calculated that there is a small benefit, i.e. £3.10 for every £1.10 spent, or actually that's not that small, but we have to be cautious about, as this use so much reference data from ONS and other, and the drug survey which is available. The most important learning, or one of the important pieces of learning, is that we will have a control group in a future study which will help interpreting findings, as this would have allowed us to control for the developmental change in children in our target age group, as we claim that development is very rapid, change is rapid, and so a control group would probably provide much clearer ways of interpreting the data. Next slide, please. I'll just briefly talk to the early program theory from our qualitative findings. Carmen mostly did that work, who talked earlier in the film. So we have this program theory where we have before the setup, during the performance, and then after consolidation. This is quite a lot to take in, but as we will share the slides, you can look at that in more detail. So from left to right, arrows indicate an enabling relationship. So for example, all the before that, feedback from young people in our young people's advisory group was really paramount to get the play up to date, and the actors, the theater company, were very collaborative in adopting those changes. Small things like the kind of music or the songs which we used in the play seem to make a big difference to the children, at least in this advisory group, to make it more relevant to them. During the play, that's the yellow box in the middle, attention, relevance, appraisal, identification, emotional resources, and reflection were all seen as mechanisms which took place and which were helpful in influencing pupils' understanding around drugs. And as we see it, a key element was around relationships, the ability to look for help or the willingness to look for help and to find it possibly. So the relational aspect was very, very important based on this quality, both looking at the play and the way the children talked about it. Next slide, please. So there is a lot of balancing acts to take, and we are currently having done some more work on the qualitative data and linking it to the perception of the play based on our survey data. And some children, for example, are much more interested in the story. Others are much more interested in the characters, in the roles. Help seeking, like the first point here, some teachers don't help. If they are strict, maybe there's a barrier. So children, pupils do not look for help here. Humor versus discomfort was a big issue. Some humor was seen as very important, but there was also discomfort, for example, with the teacher's role in the play. Then there was a consideration of real consequences versus balanced messaging. In the play, there was perhaps a bit of a rather quick and happy ending in that everything ended well, the risks of drug taking reduced, but perhaps that came a little bit too easy and too unproblematic. Next slide, please. So we believe that based particularly on the qualitative data, but also on the perception of the play in the survey, that it is a useful part and it increases engagement and provides opportunities to reflect. And the importance of relationships is, well, that's a big thing, and the social context here. The follow-up lessons were really very important, as some of these further analysis showed, which reflects then a higher degree of fidelity and weak outcomes where schools did not use the full package. We found some context mechanism outcome patterns which are hopefully transferable, and I'll come to that on the last slide. In terms of the economic analysis, a reduction in serious youth violence and in future unemployment were identified as the most significant predicted economic benefits. So the benefits accrued much a long time after the play in later years, but I would take that with a pinch of salt, as many estimates went into that, and a lot of assumptions also. Next slide, please. So this is a practical guide which we prepared and which is available for us. So this makes the case for theatre and education, looks at commissioning, involving pupils, inclusion considerations, the quality, evaluating the program, and it's available on the East Sussex website. Next slide. So we would just like to acknowledge really the Young People's Advisory Group, which was great to work with, and the many pupils who completed the questionnaires, teachers. We are also grateful to the few parents who joined us. So this is an issue for us which would need to be addressed in different ways in a future study. Any questions?